You guys are just one more win away from your fantasy football championship, so I figured I would give you guys some flex help this week. We're going to be going through 12 sneaky starts for week 16 of fantasy football, 10 flex positions, and one quarterback and one tight end streamer that I absolutely love this week. So before we get into it, remember that I am going in order. So whatever guy I talk about first is the guy that I would start over the other guys, so on and so forth. So if you have a decision involving multiple of these players, whatever guy I talked about first would be the guy that I would end up going with. But of course, leave any start-sit decisions down below. Our weekly rankings will be free this week as well. So if you want to check that out, that'll be linked down below in the pinned comment. But with that being said, let's get into it. All right, so let's kick things off with Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard is my favorite sneaky start of the week. I don't think he's all that sneaky, but I'm going through guys that are kind of like in the RB2, wide receiver 3 range, and Chuba Hubbard finds himself ranked the highest of this group. The past 4 weeks, 19, 25, 25, and 24 carries. That is Chuba Hubbard's opportunities since Frank Reich has been fired. He's been above a 70% snap share in 2 straight games, above a 64% snap share in 4 straight games. Packers defense is 9th in adjusted fantasy points allowed to the running back position, and they are 9th in rush defense DVOA allowed to the running back position as well. Sneakily, a 93% of the money on the over game environment as well. I think Chuba Hubbard is a locked and loaded mid RB2 start this week, a guy that you can absolutely trust in your lineup for the Carolina Panthers. Next on the list, sneaky start number 2 is Drake London. Again, maybe not a sneaky start to some of you guys, but Drake London is outside my top 24 wide receivers, but I still really like him this week. Heineke only started 1 full game for the Atlanta Falcons this year, but in that game, he posted 38 pass attempts. So when Heineke's back there, it seems like they're kind of uncorking the ball a little bit more. This game, as I talked about in the Matchups That Matter video yesterday, is a trifecta. It's a high over-under game at 44.5 points. 64% of the cash is on the over, and it's the single fastest paced game on the entire Week 16 slate. So with Drake London, I want a game environment that has a lot of points, a game environment that could have a lot of pass attempts, and the Colts are a league average defense against the pass, and London has a big one in store, in my opinion. So Drake London is a guy I want in my lineup. Number 3 sneaky start on this list is Devin Singletary. Texans will likely be without CJ Stroud yet again, which definitely hurts Singletary a little bit. At times, I can't believe how volatile this Texans backfield split has been, but it looks like Singletary is the guy that you want in this backfield. The Browns have actually been a very easy team to run the ball against, 4th highest rush rate over expected against their defense. And with a backup quarterback in Case Keenum, we saw how committed they were to Singletary in the run game last week. He got 30 touches, ran the ball over 25 times as well. Big time spot here for Devin Singletary. Cleveland has also been a league average matchup over the last 5 weeks against the run. So it's hard to pass the ball against this team, but it is very doable to run the ball against this team. I believe that will be the game plan for the Houston Texans coaching staff, and we should see a big game yet again out of Devin Singletary. Number 4 sneaky start on this list is Chris Godwin. He is in a great spot for a number of different reasons. Number 1, Trevor Lawrence is out for the Jacksonville Jaguars, or expected to be out for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Bucs could really dominate the time of possession in this game, which is good for everybody involved. Number 2, Chris Godwin has had 2 big games in a row, posting 11 targets in back-to-back contests, a 40% target share over his last 2 games as well. And number 3, he has the best matchup on the field versus Montaric Brown, who is averaging the 3rd most adjusted fantasy points per route covered of any cornerback in the NFL. So basically, just adjusted fantasy points per route run is the stat for wide receivers. As a cornerback, the 3rd best matchup in the entire league for Chris Godwin this week. And you guys can see some of the top matchups on the screen there. But Chris Godwin in a very good spot this week. Baker Mayfield also in a very good spot this week, as is Mike Evans and Rachaad White. I want pieces of this Buccaneers offense. So if you have Chris Godwin, you definitely want to have him into your lineup. Number 5 sneaky start on the week here is Jayden Reed. 67% of the snaps out of the slot this season. Troy Hill, the Panthers starting slot cornerback, has played 80% of his snaps out of the slot. So we have a matchup to exploit here of any wide receiver cornerback matchup all week. We have Jayden Reed versus Troy Hill. That is the most amount of snaps that any wide receiver cornerback duo will go against each other. And Troy Hill is allowing a top 20, 0.3 fantasy points per route covered this year. So he is an exploitable matchup. Top 14 in target share per route covered as well, 18.7%. And Jayden Reed has been a wide receiver 2 or better in 5 of his last 6 games. And as I mentioned for Chuba Hubbard, sneaky steam on the over in this game. Maybe we get a little bit of a higher scoring matchup than people are expecting. And there's zero chance that I'm keeping Jayden Reed out of my lineup, especially with the running back injuries there in Green Bay. We've seen Jayden Reed actually carry the ball 9 times over his last 5 games as well. So in all facets, good matchup in the slot, good matchup on the ground, good matchup for a high-scoring game environment. Potentially, Jayden Reed needs to be in your lineup in Week 16. Number 6 sneaky start this week is Javonte Williams, who is currently averaging 21.67 carries in the 6 games since his injury that the Broncos have won in. So if you look at the games that the Broncos are leading or the games that they've actually won, Javonte Williams gets fed in those games. Like I said, almost 22 carries per game over that stretch, 4 targets per game in addition, so nearly 25 opportunities per game that we're looking at for Javonte Williams. The Broncos are almost a touchdown favorite against the Patriots at home this week, and the Patriots' run defense has been really stingy as of late, but I do like Javonte to get home this week just basically due to the fact that he's going to get a big workload and it's a good game environment and a good game script. So Javonte Williams, one of my favorite running back flex options or low-end RB2 options that you can throw out there this week. Gabriel Davis, a sneaky tough call to make because he has been legit a 0. 4 times the last 6 games, he has posted 0 fantasy points. So he has been completely boom or bust. But with Gabriel Davis, he's had 4 games this year, over 20 PPR points, and this game profiles as one of these classic Gabriel Davis blow-up spots. Los Angeles Chargers corner Michael Davis is 4th in most fantasy points allowed per route. So similar, screenshot to what I showed with Chris Godwin. Michael Davis has not been that much better. The Chargers are 31st in fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position adjusted, and the Bills are implied for 28 points this week according to Vegas. So I'm all in on Gabe Davis being in a good matchup, good game environment, high point total for the Bills. They're favored by like 13 points in this game. So I think when you can see a Gabe Davis game coming, usually that's when it actually happens, and it's usually on the ropes of a bad Gabe Davis game, and I do think that we're going to see a blow-up spot this week. So if you're worried about trusting Gabe Davis, of course, that's natural. He's a boom or bust guy, but I do think it's more boom than bust this week. So Jaxon Smith-Njigba is the next guy up on this list. Had a great final drive game winner against the Eagles on Monday night. He's been trending up over the last couple weeks, and this actually might be his breakout game, the spot that we point to where it all turned on for him. Titans have been the worst defense in the NFL outside of the Commanders against fantasy wide receivers, and the Titans defense is allowing 202 receptions to wide receivers this year. That's about 15 per game and 175 yards allowed to wide receivers this year. So I really do like JSN to get home. Obviously, Metcalf is a great play. Lockett's a solid play as well. But of the two of them, I actually prefer JSN to Lockett because JSN is the guy that has been playing better as of recently. The next guy on this list, the second last guy that we're going to go through in the flex positions is Josh Downs. We have some word that Michael Pittman might play. We don't exactly know for sure yet, but as I talked about for Drake London, trifecta game. Over-under is high at 44.5. The Sharps are on the over, and it's a fast-paced game environment. I know Josh Downs was disappointing, especially knowing that Pittman left that game early last week, but I really do like him as a solid flex play this week as a top 40 wide receiver or so. Again, I am going in order of how I would start these guys, but if you need a desperation wide receiver play, I think Josh Downs is one that could get home this week. Roschon Johnson is the final sneaky start of the Week 16 slate, but Roschon Johnson has the absolute nutted matchup of all matchups. The Arizona Cardinals just got absolutely obliterated by Christian McCaffrey. They're 31st in adjusted fantasy points allowed to running backs, specifically guys like, Christian McCaffrey and Kyron Williams, who are pass-catching running backs, have absolutely tore this team up. Roschon Johnson, of course, is the pass-catching running back for the Bears. He had more snaps last week than Khalil Herbert and Deontay Foreman combined. That's the first time we've really seen that happen all year when all three of these guys are healthy. This backfield is a complete hot hand approach, and I think somebody's going to get hot against this Cardinals defense, and I like Roschon to be that guy as the one that has been leading them in snaps the past couple games. So Roschon Johnson, if you're desperate, probably a lot better plays out there, 40 wide receivers, 35 running backs or so, that I would play over Roschon, but I do like him if you guys are desperate because of injuries. Finally, we're going to get into some quarterbacks and some tight ends. Baker Mayfield is my favorite quarterback streamer of the week as a sneaky start. The Jaguars defense is allowing the 5th most passing yards, 5th most pass attempts, 6th most passing touchdowns, 5th most rushing yards, and 5th most rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks. So it profiles as a good game all around for Baker Mayfield. They currently rank 27th in adjusted fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks, and it might be, or probably will be, without Trevor Lawrence. So like I said, for Godwin, good time of possession type of game for Baker Mayfield. He is a quarterback 1 in my rankings this week. I really do trust him, even over the likes of some of your other, common quarterbacks that you're usually trusting. If you wanted to start him over Kyler Murray, I don't think that's outrageous. If you want to start him over Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, especially with a tough matchup, definitely don't blame you for that. And then the tight end that I'm streaming this week that I think is a great play is Pat Freiermuth. The stat line that the Bengals are allowing to the tight end position this year is staggering. If you combine all the tight end production that they've allowed, 120 targets to the tight end position, that's second most in the NFL. 97 catches to the tight end position, that is the most in the NFL. 1,015 receiving yards, that's the most in the NFL. Only one even over 950 yards. 6 touchdowns to the tight end position is 5th most in the NFL as well. Every tight end turns into basically Travis Kelce. 17 plus points per game is what they're allowing to the tight end position. And of course, Pat Freiermuth locks down that tight end position himself. He's not sharing it with anybody else in Pittsburgh. And we've seen him actually contribute to this total because a couple weeks ago when they last played, he had 11 targets, 9 catches, 120 yards, didn't score, but a monster game from a PPR standpoint. And the Bengals have not adjusted their defense at all because the next week after that Freiermuth big game, they allowed 82 yards and a touchdown to Evan Ingram. Just this past week against the Indianapolis Colts, they allowed all 3 of their rando-ass tight ends to get there. Kylan Granson and, Will Mallory and all these dudes, they combined for like a 100-yard game. So they're literally giving it up to the tight end position, left, right, and center. 83% and 87% of the routes to Pat Freiermuth the last 2 games. I know it's not, Kenny Pickett like it was last time, but I think Mason Rudolph is a fine enough quarterback to get Pat Freiermuth the ball over the middle of the field. So if you enjoyed these sneaky starts for week 16, if I helped you set your lineup, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel. If you guys are new around here, make sure to keep it tapped in all off-season as well. We're going to be getting right into Dynasty rookie content. Use the promo code FSE when you sign up over on Flock Fantasy for 30% off to get our rankings, to get a bonus video every single week, to get first priority on Dynasty decisions. If you sign up annually, you get a free Zoom consultation with one of myself or Danny, plus 6 months for free, as opposed to signing up monthly. So if that interests you, link will be down below for that in the pinned comment. Also, our weekly rankings are free this week, as I mentioned. Link down below for that in the pinned comment. So with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.